Thank you very much for staying with us right here on SABC News. This week saw markets, investors and labor unions digesting and familiarizing themselves with the new cabinet that was sworn in by Chief Justice Mogoeng Mogoeng. Economists believe that for President Cyril Ramaphosa, the time for talking is over and key policies must now be implemented. And key amongst those plans of the president, is to steer the South African economy on a growth path. But will the economy ever grow? Let us ask Northwest University Business School economist, Professor Raymond Parsons. Thank you very much, sir, for coming.
Good afternoon, Colin.
Right, now that we can say that South Africans have had a successful election, they've inaugurated their president and they have their executive with all in place. Back to the drawing board. The problem is the South African economy, which is non-performing. Will it ever perform?
I think the core element in that earlier comment was we've now reached a stage after the election and after the formation of the cabinet and certain other decisions have been taken. We have to walk the talk. We don't want to go back to the drawing board. We've been at too many drawing boards in the past, too many plans that were not implemented. And I think the key message that has come through from the president, both in his campaign speeches and indeed other statements, and also implicit in the formation of this cabinet, the size and the shape of the cabinet, is we now have to get on with it. We have to implement what we have said we would do. So to me, the two key messages, once we've unpacked the cabinet and decided what we like about it and what we don't like about it, the fact is the bottom line now is delivery and leadership. Those are the two elements that have to drive the policies that will reduce uncertainty, encourage investment, encourage growth, and to the people watching will begin to create jobs for everyone. So that's where we are now, and the question is, can we hit the ground running? Both government and the private sector and labor, can we now collaborate to turn the situation around in a dramatic way?
Let's talk about the thorn in the flesh. The SOEs have really had a beleaguered past, and that legacy is now impeding on the progress of, for example, Eskom. What do you say about that, more especially that business needs confidence in as far as electricity generation for them to function? How then do you draw that confidence to say, okay, we have stabilized Eskom, whereas they have a problem with their debt, the CEO is just resigning now? What do you think?
Well, you have raised an important point, because one of the issues that have been raised very strongly in the past by several observers is that Eskom is the biggest single risk to the South African economy. Being able to turn it round will depend very largely on us firstly being able to stabilize Eskom, get it right, restructure it, but more broadly offer the South African economy, offer investors the energy security they need for the longer term. That, in fact, if you invest in South Africa and create jobs, you can be sure of the lights staying on. And that is one of the most important priorities that now has to be addressed by the new cabinet. But this
doesn't look like it's going to be a walk in the park for the president, because when we had the Ramaphosa in the past year, we saw how the economy took a dip with GDP figures coming very disappointingly so. Now, when you look at sectors like manufacturing, mining, as well as other sectors of the economy like agriculture, which have not been impressive when the figures come out, what do you say to that? What's going to make them tick?
What I say to that is that we are now facing a situation, the new cabinet and all of us are facing a situation where the expectation of our growth this year, if we're lucky, will be 1%. Maybe a little better next year if we begin to do the right things. But what has the president himself said? He has said, and he said that when he was inaugurated in Parliament, he said, look, I want to warn you, there are some tough decisions to be taken. This is not a walk in the park, and I don't think he thinks it is. But you need a team. He's put the team together. And he said, secondly, I wish to govern for the country as a whole. So that means there will be a broad interpretation of his political mandate to ensure that you get the collaboration of business and other stakeholders, so that you could say to everyone, I realize that not the government, not business and not labor, will turn this situation around.
Professor,
we all have to work to get that growth rate up to where it should be and to create the jobs that we need to create.
But it isn't, especially when you look at small businesses. I mean, like, that is, one sector that has failed to gain traction. That is one struggling sector of the economy. What do you say about it?
What does the National Development Plan say? What has everyone said? That we really have to look to small business to create the bulk of the jobs that we want. But then you must create an environment in which they will thrive. And they have a number of concerns that inhibit small business, that inhibit entrepreneurship in South Africa. And what has the President done? Although he has rationalized several of the economic portfolios, he has retained the portfolio of small business, and he has put a new minister in. Now, this is a great opportunity for small business to engage with that minister and see what the obstacles are, because we will look to small business to play a very dynamic role in helping to turn this economy around. But I would say that's a broader message, that indeed business as a whole must now engage the ministers in the post-election period and see how we can do things differently and do them better, so that people watching this program can feel they might get a job or they might be able to enjoy a far better standard of living. So that's the big challenge, and I think we must now get past the post-mortem stage and begin to look at this as a window of opportunity, and it won't be a long one, in which we can create momentum at last to turn this economy around.
You're cutting short. The words cautious optimism have been bandied around. And when it comes to investor confidence, is it still the same sentiment?
The sentiment is very important, that you create, as part of the solution, a positive view by investors, both domestically and foreign, that they wish to be a part of a new South Africa that's unfolding, the potential that is there. Now, the important point is, if you're an optimist, you will tackle the issues to find solutions. That's what optimists do. But the fact is, you have to be a realistic optimist and weigh up the risks. If you're a pessimist, you're just washing your hands of the situation and you don't look for solutions. So I think the important point here is to say we're living in an imperfect economy. We have imperfect decisions to take. But at the end of the day, what we want to do collectively as a country, not just as a government or as labor or as business, to say we are all in the same boat. And if we do not recognize that and behave accordingly and take the decisions that are appropriate, we will not reach the harbor that we want for South Africa. So that is my underlying message. We must now capitalize on the new situation to give us a stronger, better and bigger economy.
All right. Thank you very much for your insightful analysis, Professor Parsons. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.